Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. My name is Wendy Mertens, and welcome today at the webinar about MSM's Executive Value Chains Analysis Program, which will be provided by Dr. Jeroen van Wijk. Before we start, there are a few things I would like to share with you. As you might have noticed, your microphone is muted. Please keep it muted during the whole session. This way we can avoid background noise. If you have a question, don't hesitate and ask him right away. You can use the Q&A functionality, but you can also raise your hand via the raise your hand tool. And if possible, Dr. Jeroen van Wijk will unmute your microphone, or you will be asked to unmute your microphone yourself, and then you can ask your question. Furthermore, this webinar will be recorded, so all participants will receive the recording plus the slides afterwards. And so now I would like to hand over to Dr. Jeroen van Wijk.
Yes, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Jeroen van Wijk. I'm an associate professor at MSM, and I'm the lecturer of this course on value chain analysis. I share my slide immediately because then we have some materials that we can watch. So here we are. I hope this works. Yes, for me it works. Oh, I hope also for you, Wendy. Can you see?
Yes.
Yes, good. Okay. So this is the beautiful Roman bridge that we have in Maastricht, and we often use this in our brochures. Had nothing to do with the value chain course, of course. So this is the agenda. We have half an hour. Wendy did already the welcoming part. I will do the rest, and I will just explain you a little bit what we do in this value chain development program. We had a short video clip, but we tried to figure this out just before this we started, and we had a technical problem here. So I will explain what the video was all about, and then I give a short mini lecture. We have a poll question, and we have room for questions for you. That is what is it. I was asked by Wendy, tell a little bit about yourself. Well, very shortly, because you can read that on the MSM webpage as well. I studied, my background is political sciences. I studied political science, international relations, but I worked all my life at the business school. So what I can do and what I like to do is I combine the private and the public views in my lectures. And the main question that has driven me for the past 30 years is how can emerging economies or developing countries industrialize? And that is the reason I just ended up with value chain analysis, because that is a powerful tool that both governments and private companies can use to improve their competitiveness. Now, having said this, we move to the second slide here. So we talk about value chains. Now I'm not going to explain all about it, a little bit only in this brief seminar, but value chains, by way of definition, are national or international production networks of companies that design, manufacture, market, and eventually recycle a product. I'll explain that a little bit later. And what we do in this program, we try to explore the different theoretical aspects of value chain analysis, and we learn how to apply the concepts to the practice of your own organization, be it a government agency or a private company or private business organization or an NGO. Once again, I mean, I just repeat what Wendy already said. If you have a question, you can just address it right away. And if we have time, we just respond quickly. So for this value chain program, we distinguish two blocks. One block is usually the lecturing part of an hour in a module, and then we have an assignment, which is block 2. So in block 1, we do the consist of basically the mapping and understanding of a value chain, especially in relation to the competitiveness and local economic development. So these are the topics that we will, these 5 blocks are the topics that we discuss, the drivers and trends in global value chains, and especially also the impact that the China-US rivalry has on value chains. We talk about value chain governance. Governance is a central term in value chain analysis. That means what are the roles of the lead firms in the chain, or the local lead firms, to organize the value chain. The second key topic is upgrading, innovation and upgrading trajectories, both for firms and governments, that we will address. We will talk about the strategies for firms and governments to enter global value chains, and we will spend time on a key topic in value chain development, which is cooperation and trust. If there is no cooperation and trust, it is very, very difficult to improve and enhance the efficiency of value chains. Now, on block 2, the week assignment. So if you are in this course, you will be put in a group. We will do that for you. So you will work in one group for the entire week. And then you work on one specific value chain that you analyze, and you in terms of constraints and opportunities, and then you try to find out some recommendations for the key firm in that value chain, or the government of the country where that the basic part of the chain is located. Now, just for what is some technical issues here for the course. This is what you can find. I just copied this from the website. So this is the course Value Chain Analysis for Business Development Local Value Edition. It is takes place from 7 to 11 February, 5 days in a row. It is full time, and it is also hybrid. So if you cannot travel, you do not want to travel, you can stay at home or at your office and follow the course from there. And I can assure you, we have a lot of experience built up in the past 2 years with online virtual education, hybrid classes, whatever. I'm pretty sure that we can, if you have a good connection, that we can manage very well to include you in the course also from a distance. Now, this is the part that where we had a technical problem here. What I wanted to show you is a video of the president of Ghana. He made a state visit to Switzerland 1.5 years ago in March 2020. And what you can see in what you would have seen in the video is first the Swiss president explaining how happy she was with the visit of the president of Ghana, because Ghana and Switzerland have a special relationship. Ghana is exporting cocoa beans to Switzerland, and Switzerland is a major producer of chocolate. So that is what the Swiss president emphasized. We have a win-win situation here. You supply us with raw materials, and we can use the materials in our chocolate manufacturing. Then came in the president of Ghana, and he said, well, he was also very happy, of course, with visiting Switzerland. But he said, yes, but in terms of cocoa beans, we no longer want to export cocoa beans, actually, because we want to produce chocolate ourselves. And that was a kind of, you see the people a little bit stunned because he was so direct. But he made a very clear point, which is actually the context of this course. Countries like Ghana do not longer want to be in this structure that has been here for since colonial times, that developing countries or emerging economies just export raw materials and leave the high value added stages of the value chain in this industrialized countries. So the question in this course is, how can emerging economies or developing countries acquire more value added stages to their own countries? Now, we use this often. I assume you have seen these type of pictures of value chains, right? This is the value chain from farmer to trader, processor, wholesaler to consumer. I'm not so happy with the ending of the consumer here, because there is also a very important phase after consumption, which is the recycling phase. I mean, every actor in the value chain adds value. And also in the recycling phase, new value is being added, and that is important. What you can see is that we have 3 sectors here. We have the value chain, and we have value chain facilitation, and we have the value chain environment. So what we do, we use a very holistic concept here. We don't only speak and discuss the private sector activities, but we also do that in the context of what is the environment, what is the, in terms of climate issues, what is the government doing? I mean, the government is extremely important in value chain analysis and in value chain development. We talk about technology, currencies, and we also talk about other stakeholders like NGOs or communities or what you have. Now, the facilitators are over here. These are those actors that are extremely important to smoothen the efficiency of the value chain, transportation, trading, extension, etc. Now, in the beginning, I already said we have national and international value chains. So the discussion and the materials, the documentation you see is often about global value chains. But of course, value chains are also very national, and national value chains are important. So I distinguish 4 types of chains. The first one is this, a very simple value chain, starting with an input supplier, then we have a farmer and trader and a consumer in one country, country A. Could be anything, could be just rice, could be potatoes, could be fish, whatever. The second chain is a little bit more complicated here. So the first 3 stages are more or less the same, but then there is a processor here, right? So there's not just a farmer that produces something that ends up with the consumer, but it is being processed and it ends up with the retailer and then goes to the consumer. This one here is exactly the same, but there's 2 countries involved, because the trader here is also an exporter and the processor imports materials from country A. So this is already a global value chain in our definition. But all these 3 chains are commodity based. And then there is another type of chain that is so important nowadays, and that is what we call the specialized value chain, where and that is the advantage of global value chains, that a country no longer has to produce an entire product, what you have seen here, but you can just specialize in one, let's say one manufacturing phase over here. And then the whole value chain covers 3 countries. Let's say that this is Ethiopia, for example. Ethiopia has an enormous, great stock of animals, and they have a lot of leather. And Ethiopia wants to become a shoe manufacturer rather than just exporting raw leather. So there has been a policy over the past 25 years in Ethiopia to upgrade that sector, that it becomes a manufacturer. Now, that was very difficult for the Ethiopian companies in the beginning. So Ethiopia invited foreign companies, Chinese companies, Italian companies, to start shoe factories in Ethiopia. So they used their own leather, but they also used other products that had to import from other countries. They make shoes, and then or parts of shoes or high quality leather, which you can export to other countries. So you can also specialize in one stage of the value chain. So you can see when we have this course on value chains, we discuss all these 4 value chains. These are all important for economic development. Now we have a poll question. Wendy, we are doing this together. Let me see. Can you launch it, or shall I launch it? But I have to stop sharing my screen. Can you launch it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see. The poll question, I will just first read it out for you, is economic sectors in a country need to be sustainably competitive. What does it mean? Is it A, individual companies need to be well managed because they compete with other companies, or is it B, individual companies need to manage their value chains well because value chains compete with other value chains? Now, just see what you would say. The answer is, the one person said, well, individual companies need to be well managed because companies compete, and the second one is the companies need to manage their value chains well because value chains compete. Well, actually, yes. I mean, A is not really wrong, obviously, but you can imagine in this course on value chains, we emphasize B. Because, and I stop sharing this. This is really very important that you, and I'm just try to share my slides again. So I'm going back to my slides here. Yes. So yes, obviously, companies need to be well managed, and they have their companies that they compete with, but they compete really in value chains. This is something that I will emphasize from the beginning in this course. If you manage your value chain well, so that means your marketing channels, your supply chain, and your own organization well, that gives you the unique selling point, the benefit over other companies that have more difficulties with their organization of their value chain. So, and let me see here. Yes. Yes. So this is another value chain. So it is now horizontal. So here are the chain actors, more or less. So we have the farming, smallholder, cooperative, outgrowers, three different types of farming. If you are in agriculture, you know all about it. So we have the wholesaler, we have the processor, we have the manufacturer and exporter, foreign importer, wholesaler, foreign. So this is the value chain, right? In at least 2 countries, because there is an exporter. Now this is the chain facilitators, the traders, the business incubator, private bank, business association, and we have organizations in the institutional environment. Obviously the government, the TVET, technical and vocational education and training institutions, NGOs, export promotion bodies. Now, this is more or less what is it. If you map a chain, you get these type of pictures, but it is empty, right? We have to fill the story, to tell the story all about it. So you have to do the analysis. Now, if you do an analysis, we always start here, because this is the lead firm, or at least the local lead firm in this value chain in country A. So what we do is we focus on this manufacturer, and in the course you will get plenty of time to try to find information on that company. And what I do myself very often is I go to the internet, and you you do have an idea how much you can find on the internet, but I'm always surprised what I can find on individual small companies in whatever country in the world, because all these CEOs or owners of these small companies, if they are small or big, they give interviews. There is all kinds of information. There are other organizations that did the value chain studies and that report on these type of companies. So this is, the focal point. We want to know how this company fares, because this is the company that organizes the value chain. So you would like to know the constraints and opportunities of this company here. And what we do in the next step, we go to the market. So what are the markets? What is the market demand? What is the future trends? What are the future trends of the product that is being produced, manufactured, and exported by this company? And then we take into account for an importer, the wholesaler, and the retailer, but also the export promotion body in the country of the manufacturer, the business association. What are they doing? What can they do? And the third step, no, I got the wrong way. The third step is the supply chain. Here, the supply chain. You hear that I use the word supply chain for the first time. So a supply chain is different from a value chain. A supply chain is a part of a value chain. For this manufacturer and exporter, he or she has a supply chain to manage here, right? So you go to all these organizations and you want to know what the relationships are with this manufacturer. Now, this is my final slide. I think we have only a few minutes left. So for whom is an analysis of a value chain relevant? Well, again, for governments and for NGOs on the one hand, so for public organizations to measure the industry performance, to identify the challenges of the domestic suppliers and traders, and then what can a government agency do to support, or an NGO do to support these organizations? Now, for the companies, it is very relevant because value chains compete, and you want to know how can you manage in an efficient way your relationships with suppliers and buyers and with governments. Now I have come to, I have one final slide. Wendy, is that still possible, or should I just leave it? what
No,
this is.
no, we still have a few minutes to go, and
Okay, good.
there's time for people to ask questions. So yeah.
Exactly. So then this is you know, at MSM we just give high priority to sustainable development, and what we have seen so far is, to a lot of extent, economic upgrading. We talk about value chains and get the value chains more competitive, more efficient. So then you talk about economic upgrade to a large extent. But obviously, the conditions under which you want to work is that you do not destruct the environment. So what can you do to improve the environment, in the sense that you can upgrade your organization so that you reduce the destruction of the environment, or even can improve it? Social upgrading, exactly the same. How can you make your value chain more inclusive? How can you create jobs for youth? And how can you raise incomes for those farmers or other employees in your organization, for example? So if we think of sustainable development goals, I think number 1, reducing poverty, 4 on quality education and inclusive education, 9 on industry development, and 15 on protection of the environment. These are the most important ones that will be addressed in this course. Okay, thank you very much. I want to stop here, and now I just wonder whether you have questions, and that we can go to the chat.
Yes. There are no questions in the chat yet. Perhaps to you directly, Jeroen, perhaps?
I stopped sharing here. Can I do it? Is there a question? I don't have a question yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well,
there's a question here. How can we affected the value chains with logistics now? Carlos, thank you for the question. In the pandemic crisis, yes, I mean, yeah, the COVID pandemic obviously influences in a negative way the value chains, especially the very long global value chains. As we have seen, we have a lot of troubles in getting our supply chain, our long supply chain from China to Europe, for example. So the prices rise for that reason. But you know, I'm not inclined to spend incredibly lot of attention to the COVID crisis. It is in the beginning. It is important because that is one trend that affects it. But value chains will be there. I mean, this pandemic will go away, and the value chains will be there. The national value chains, domestic value chains, or international value chains. So that is, I think, more important. The analysis remains as important, but yes, presently it is heavily affected, and it is interesting to see the vulnerability of the very long value chains. So that has an effect on that people try to source more in the region. So that also gives opportunities for country in the region of a market, and that is for Latin America, for Africa, for Asia, for Europe, everywhere. Yeah, I hope to have answered your question, Carlos.
Okay, and then we have another question from Bal. It's the question he submitted in the question and answer box. Jeroen, you can see the question yourself.
We, the seed company, we want to produce hybrid vegetable seeds in Nepal. How can we develop good value chain in this? Yeah, oh, interesting. I spent my previous life in the seed industry, so I like this question very much. Yeah, I mean, as a seed company, you're in the very beginning of a value chain, right? Because the seed is the very beginning of a final product, a final consumption good, whatever it is. And your hybrid vegetable seeds, it doesn't make a change. I mean, that is for farmers it is different, but nevertheless the seed remains a seed, and it remains the first visible aspect of a product. Now, if you want to produce hybrid vegetable seed, you have to do the value chain analysis, because also for seed companies, you have to know what is the final market, which market should we address. So you really must know whether there's a market for that product that you want well, you don't sell it, but you sell the seed, and you want to convince farmers that they produce it, and you want to convince food processors that they process that product. So you really have to know whether there is a market or not for that specific vegetable. Yeah, that would be my answer. So, I hope that suffices.
Okay, one more question in the chat.
Value chains and the fourth industrial revolution. How will the change in terms of productivity? I'm not sure I just understand the final part of it, but what we can say, so I will address the fourth industrial revolution in the first part of the course. Yes, because that means that there's a lot of changes in the value chain. So I mean, there's a lot of digitization of value chains, and that has consequences. So it is much more. All the value chains must be and can be much more transparent. And as a lead firm, you want to know where your material is somewhere in the chain, and you can find it because they, all these digital techniques that are being used. So we will deal with that, and it change in terms of productivity. Well, if you are in the course in February, we can deal with that question in more depth, because that is a little bit short to explain it now. Now the next. So thank you, Shiham. Let me look. What have we here? Was it Siam that question?
Yes, there's another question from Siam.
Will change and your competitor will be affected too. The structure of the value chain will change and your competitor. Yes, well, it depends very much on where you are in the value chain. Obviously, yeah. So the new technologies that are extremely important for value chains, and we will discuss them. Okay.
Okay, it was just a remark to the previous question. Okay. Well, I don't think we have any questions left. Oh, one more question. Do you still have time for one more question, Jeroen?
Yeah, sure. How is the value chain interrelated to circular economy? Oh, that's also a very nice question, Vic. Thank you very much. Yes, well, you have seen that I have added the recycling phase to a value chain because I think value added is being there. So there's your circularity. And I think that is so we give the opportunity during the week assignment if you were in the program, when you work on this value chain, specifically also work on the recycle phase, and then what is needed for a good recycle phase. If you go back to the value chain, what should change in the design of the very product to make it more circular in the end, to make it more recycled, more able to be recycled in the very end. So this is a topic that we can definitely that we deal with in the course. Yes, thank you. I hope this was a good enough answer for now. Yes, there is a certificate of participation, SIHAM. That is, you can find it on the website. On the website of MSM will give you the ideas of what the content is of the course and all a number of the fees and opportunities for scholarships and reductions or whatever. Yeah. Okay, Wendy, you gave the link here already, so that's important. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Wendy, you are just closing off, but I stopped sharing here my screen.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Jeroen, thank you very much. And of course, we hope to see you in the program of Jeroen van Wijk in February. I've just sent you the URL to the website where you can find more information. And as said before, I will make sure that you will receive the recording of this webinar. So thank you, everybody, and hope to see you next time.